Councilmember Mosqueda overcomes her fear to honor a friend.
Let's step out of our comfort zone, right? Let's make sure that more folks have access to life-saving blood supply that they need.
A Seattle landmark takes dining to new heights.
Well, I'll tell you, every day is an exciting day.
Making healthy school lunches that feed the body and beliefs.
Not all these kids are going to go for hamburgers, fries, and pizzas.
These stories and more next on CityStream. Hi, I'm Tatevik Aprikyan. Welcome to CityStream from one of Seattle's most scenic and fast-changing neighborhoods. Just 2.5 years ago, the viaduct separated downtown from the waterfront as it had for more than a century. But not anymore. The double-decker span closed January 11th, 2019. Demolition was finished later that year, and since then, a lot has changed as the waterfront undergoes an exhilarating facelift. Much more on that just ahead. We begin with a story of dire need in our community. As we're coming out of the pandemic, blood banks are experiencing a critical shortage. In Seattle, one city council member has overcome her fear of needles to encourage others to help Bloodworks Northwest. Brian Callanan has more.
On a mild spring day in downtown Seattle, there's a perfect storm brewing.
The fact that you have so many people that are in need and so many people that aren't showing up for their appointments makes it a true crisis situation.
That's Seattle City Council member Teresa Mosqueda talking about a serious shortage in our blood supply. It's the council member's job to tackle major challenges, like helping build affordable housing and creating the Domestic Workers' Bill of Rights.
So stay tuned, more information.
Even social media videos in one take.
For a good cause.
But get a needle even near Councilmember Mosqueda to give blood? Watch out.
Okay, everybody, I'm looking away.
It's actually her first time ever donating.
I'm obviously a little scared of needles. Haven't really looked at my blood being drawn at the doctor's office ever. And so let's step out of our comfort zone, right? Let's make sure that more folks have access to life-saving blood supply that they need.
Bloodworks Northwest calls our current blood shortage a code red situation. And that's where Teresa's friend, Molly Firth, comes in.
1, 2, 3.
The smiles come easy now. But a few years ago, when Molly's daughter was born, Teresa almost lost her friend when Molly had a postpartum hemorrhage and needed 16 units of blood.
Since giving birth and having my experience and receiving so much blood, I understand now in a different way how important it is to do this.
Molly, whose daughter is now 5, thought it was so important, she joined the Board of Trustees at Bloodworks Northwest and has been an advocate for women's health ever since.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for taking time with that.
And her work is needed now more than ever. The COVID crisis has not stopped pop-up events for Bloodworks Northwest, like this one last year at the Paramount Theater, and people are still donating.
There's so much that's out of my control right now, and it's hard to know where to help or how to help, but donating blood feels like something specific I can do.
But to keep everyone safe, Bloodworks Northwest is scheduling donations rather than allowing walk-ins and limiting the amount of donors at one time to allow for social distancing, which all contributes to a health crisis on top of the COVID pandemic for our entire country.
Blood banks can't depend on each other to ship each other blood like they have in the past. So this is really one of those situations that is quite scary because we don't have the ability to tap others for help if there's a really big emergency.
So the pressure is on at Bloodworks Northwest to increase donations into the summer and beyond. And that number of donors not only needs to multiply, but diversify.
There is a real need for folks of color to be donating blood as well.
The American Red Cross says most of the 100,000 people in the U.S. with sickle cell disease are of African or Latino descent.
We need as many people who can to donate blood, because that's the only thing that helps a person with sickle cell in a pain crisis.
Blood transfused to these patients must be matched closely to reduce the risk of complications, and it's more likely to find a compatible blood match from a donor of similar ethnicity. But blood donations from people of color have fallen by 50% during the pandemic.
People are confused, maybe a little bit scared.
The truth is, there's nothing to be scared about. In fact, there's no waiting period to donate after you've received a COVID vaccine.
And it didn't hurt.
Yeah, I told you.
For Teresa Mosqueda, who was there soon after her friend Molly's daughter was born, and who had a daughter of her own in 2019, it's a lesson learned.
Molly's baby is 5 years old now, and so it's taken me 5 years to give blood, and it won't take me 5 more, Molly. I'll make sure to do this with you on a regular basis.
So forget about that fear of needles.
Thank you very much, Molly.
And remember, the friends who donate together stay together, and the community that comes together and gives blood during this time of crisis stays alive.
To learn how to schedule an appointment to give blood, just visit bloodworksnw.org. Next on CityStream, it's home to the Great Wheel and a fascinating bit of Northwest history. Welcome back to CityStream from the beautiful waterfront landmark here at the Great Wheel. Well, now that life is slowly returning back to normal, this family-run operation here at Pier 57 is fully reopened, and they're taking Experiencing Seattle to new heights. But Miners Landing also has a fascinating past. Pier 57 at Seattle's waterfront is home to Miners Landing. Perhaps best known for the Seattle Great Wheel, attracting tourists and locals to take in the views of Puget Sound and the city. This year, the gondolas turned into dinner cars for a one-of-a-kind experience, taking dining to new heights. 12 of the 42 heated and air-conditioned gondolas are transformed into your own restaurant cabin with white tablecloths and classical music. A breathtaking view is the perfect backdrop for a 4-course Pacific Northwest-style seafood dinner served Thursday through Saturday nights.
For a half hour, you ride around. It'll stop then and give you then your main course and your dessert. And then you go for another half hour or so.
Seeing the wheel turn out excited crowds again is renewed hope for Hal Griffith, the humble owner of Miners Landing, who has been through his fair share of ups and downs.
Well, I'll tell you, every day is an exciting day. There's never a dull moment, that's for sure. The viaduct coming down was big.
The Alaskan Way Viaduct was taken down in 2019, and with it, took out a lot of parking waterfront businesses relied on. The constant construction already had people avoiding the area.
And you have the pandemic. It's been devastating for the waterfront as well as any business downtown or anywhere really.
And then in September of 2020, during demolition work on neighboring Pier 58, it collapsed when severely deteriorated pilings caved, sending workers, trees, a concrete terrace, and a 4-ton fountain plunging into Elliott Bay.
That was a big blow that we had that happen. They were concerned about the safety of our pier. If more of that pier would fall down, would it fall into our pier? So they red tagged, which means they closed our building. We had to shut everything down, including the wheel, and it wasn't opened up again until near the end of the year of last year.
This spot where the pier fell is also where Seattle's early expansion ignited at the turn of the century. In July of 1897, the steamship Portland docked in Seattle from Alaska, carrying 68 miners and what newspapers said was a ton of gold.
Between Pier 58 and our pier, Miners Landing, is where the ton of gold was landed in 1897. And that's what really started the gold rush.
Seattle merchants advertised their new port status, declaring the city as the gateway to the gold fields, and Seattle's population doubled by 1900.
I felt that I had a piece of history that was, available to us, and I've always tried to promote the idea that the history is centered around the gold rush and the miners. See, this is all the gold rush period.
Historical touches keep the miners' theme alive, and a nod to Pacific Northwest heritage can be seen around every corner.
Walk the planks of history.
Griffith came to the pier in the 60s. Most of the piers along the waterfront then were used for storage.
I had a business, and it was a salvage business, and I needed a place to sell it and to store it. And so I rented from the Port of Seattle on a month-to-month basis the pier. And that's how I got started on the pier. One thing led to another. We put a fast food counter in and a little restaurant. Our retail store was originally called Salvage Mart, and eventually that got changed to Pirates Plunder.
Rebuilding the electrical, structural, pilings underneath, and the inside took years. While most neighboring piers have been modernized, Griffith wanted to keep the architectural feel and historical elements.
These were all in good shape here, but we sandblasted all the wood. It was just an open space that was dark and gloomy and rainy. The front end of the building was offices in the old days. And then you went into the warehouse, and the roof was in such bad shape. The pigeons were there. If it rained, the water was dripping from the ceiling. There was so much soaked up wood up above. So it was just a great big empty cavity that was very decayed. White Pan, give me a little sample.
That decayed cavity is long gone, and walking the front end now, you get a whiff of alder smoked salmon on the wood stove.
That's Columbia River salmon.
Down from the seafood counter, there's homemade ice cream.
There's a couple loaves in there.
A sourdough bakery, and the famous crab pot was all his original idea.
1, 2, 3. Voila.
It's just so fun to see people just absolutely enjoy with their hands and ripping things apart, and just like it's a food fight.
The attractions make the special memories for visitors.
Had their picture taken, then it slips in here.
The carousel inside was one of Hal's first big additions. Outside, the 175-foot, 170,000-pound great wheel was a feat of its own to build at the edge of the pier.
It barely fit. We had to take a yardstick and measure to make sure that it would fit.
A dream of Hal's for more than 3 decades, it finally got approval by the city and opened in 2012, now an iconic part of the Seattle cityscape.
You get to fly through the state of Washington.
And Wings Over Washington take people on a virtual flight across the state.
We wanted to make something that was very themed and immersive and kind of all-encompassing.
At 83 years old, Hal Griffith is still here at the pier almost every day.
I'm inspired each day to get up and be a part of things.
Griffith says he's proud of the legacy he gets to leave behind for his kids and his city.
I think there's people around me sometimes say, well, maybe you should go home, Dad. Why don't you leave things alone and just go home?
An optimist at heart, his tenacity has kept him forging ahead, reinventing this lifelong dream of showcasing Seattle's sights, flavors, and fun while preserving its history.
You can't be stagnant. You can't just rely on one thing that you have. You have to keep adding, especially when you have a pier like ours.
In June, Miners Landing also launches a new attraction, Salish Sea Tours. It's a nod to history and the Salish tribes that gathered and traded here along the waterfront pre-1800s. The tours will be a catamaran excursion of Puget Sound. And a quick update on Miners Landing's next-door neighbor, Pier 58. After the pier's collapse 8 months ago, it was demolished and all the debris cleared away. Before long, work will begin to create a new section of Waterfront Park designed especially with families and young children in mind. It's hard to believe just a stone's throw away from here, a dirty, loud neighbor created a barrier to change. Of course, we're talking about the viaduct. Many despise the utilitarian look of the aging highway, but no one ever complained about the spectacular views from its top deck. Producer Ian DeVere gauged reaction in the waning days of the old Alaskan Way viaduct.
We started in April of 1978, so it's been just a little over 40 years, and we've been in the same location. I don't feel it until people mention it. When they ask me about the noise, I just say, oh yeah, it does make noise. But I've turned it off so many years ago, it doesn't bother me at all.
I don't really have a lot that I dislike about it. It's
It's big and gray, but it's really grown on me over the past 4 years. I have a strange attachment to it. I am a little bit concerned about how quiet it's going to be. I'm used to it. My office window is right there, so I can hear everything all day. And like I said, it just kind of becomes a drone after a while. I'm curious because it's hard for me to sleep when I take trips outside the city. So I don't know if I'll be able to work with all that quiet.
I love this city. I mean, this city is a majestic place, whether it's day or night, and the night view is gonna be, I'm gonna miss that a lot, because I love going, especially going that way towards the stadiums, and I've worked at both, and it's gonna be sad to not be able to see that anymore.
Just taking some pictures just for fun. Just capture it just so I can show people in case we forget. It's a little bit sad for me. I've lived here most of my life, and I just enjoy the viaduct when I drive on it and seeing the wonderful view here. And but I guess that's the way it goes. That's progress.
Waterfront's going to change. You know, the rents are going to go through the roof. We've already started to see it. The business model that I've developed is based on this location, a mix of tourists and locals. 3:30, there's 4:16. I have people from all over the world. Every time they come to Seattle, they stop by. What I'll miss the most is being able to operate my business. Without it, I don't think it's going to happen. These low-rent buildings, warehouse buildings, are going to disappear. You know, that's what I miss. Is the opportunity to continue.
One thing I actually really enjoy about it is in the mornings, before our hygiene center opens up downstairs, our clients will actually line out here underneath the viaduct to get out of the rain and everything. And they're out of the way of traffic and all that, but they can actually stay dry while they're waiting for the doors to open, and then they can come inside and access services afterwards. I think we're going to stick around. We're here to serve our clients, and we have no intention of leaving anytime soon.
Ultimately, it's going to work out. People are going to find other ways to get through downtown, get to downtown. I think aesthetically, it's going to make the city much more attractive.
I'll be happy to see it gone. From the standpoint is that I would like to see the city connect to the waterfront.
The plans to put in some park space and that sort of thing will be very good for the public, I think.
I'm hoping it'll bring more people, you know, especially in the summer. I think it'll be beautiful for that, so.
I'm hoping it's a bit more open and that people can kind of access. I hear there's going to be a park over here. It'd be nice to be able to kind of walk out there after work and maybe enjoy a sunset.
It's been really fun.
I'm just a little sad. You know, tomorrow's the last day. You know what? I may make my husband drive just so I can get that last bit of view.
We'll see an icon go away, I think, is the bottom line.
Despite its homely appearance and lack of charm, many people clearly had a sentimental attachment to the viaduct. On its final night, January 11th of 2019, this was the crazy scene as people took one final spin on the aging span. Just ahead, Seattle schools work to feed kids and respect their culture as CityStream continues. CityStream returns from Pier 62. It's been completely overhauled and it's open to the public. This giant space provides spectacular views of Elliott Bay, the Olympics, and the Seattle skyline. In the future, this spacious location will accommodate a variety of cultural, recreational, and educational activities. And Pier 62 will also be a connector to the new Overlook Walk, which will take visitors directly to Pike Place Market. Completion of this new project is still a few years off, but it's another dramatic change that will transform the waterfront. It's lunchtime in Seattle and the perfect time to talk about our next story. The Seattle School District is determined to make lunches healthier and more culturally diverse. Of course, the pandemic changed the way it distributes food, plus the district realized it was no longer just feeding kids, but families. The priority is to serve quality meals that satisfy all cultures. Producer Ian DeVere explains.
One thing I noticed when I moved here is that Seattle's completely different from Chicago. And and it's more diverse.
In Seattle, we have so much diversity, people of all different backgrounds, where food is really important to all these different cultures.
I have 26 countries represented in my school at Denny International. Chief Sealth also. Not all these kids are gonna go for hamburgers, fries, and pizzas. They want other things.
I immediately started to reach out to different community groups, student organizations, parent groups, just so I could get a better understanding of the city, like the type of spices, type of dishes, what type of food do, your kids eat when they're home, what would they like to see in the lunchroom. From there, I just started game plan on how can we start incorporating the different type of cultures in the food. So a kid, no matter what their background is, when they come into that cafeteria, they feel like they're at home.
When I came in, we actually cooked. We cooked everything by scratch. And then we changed over to where more things started to come to us. We just would heat it up.
One of the very first things I did was improve quality, try to get away from processed foods, bring in more fresh fruits, more fresh vegetables. But then I brought in the district chef.
So I really was very on board with the mission of presenting more culturally relevant food, and I feel like that's how people learn different cultures through food the best, especially young children. I am an immigrant. I came from Brazil, and so I started here at first grade, and I just remember the corn dogs. I'm like, what is this thing on a stick? Nachos, and just the cheese sauce. It just didn't feel to me like a meal, like a comforting meal that I was used to, like a home-cooked meal. I think that whenever we do items that are made from scratch, we really see the benefits of that. Our kitchen is pretty big, it has a lot of industrial equipment, so it's here, so let's put it to use.
We did a Somali chicken stew.
We served salmon chowder, and that was smoked salmon from Louis Island. Delicious, that was a big hit.
The salmon chowder, the wonton soup, I really want to do more of those because I think the kids will really go for that.
We work with students. We had a student from Haiti.
Hi, I'm Emmy Collins, District Chef at Seattle Public School, and I'm here with Angel Dawes, Seattle Skills Center culinary student at Rainier Beach, and she's going to be teaching us how to make her family's recipe for Haitian chicken stew, which I'm then going to take and we're going to be serving it up to the students at all the Seattle schools.
I think a lot of people underestimate kids and their palates. And at first, some people were like, what kid is going to eat lentil stew? And it was let's try it out. I'm always let's try it out, see how it does. And we did it, and it was probably the most popular thing that we put on the menu last year was a lentil stew.
That's really good. Thank you.
It was March 12th, my 60th birthday, and I was done with work. What we thought was 3 weeks. We came back on that, I believe it was the 16th, that Monday, and we were open for business because we had to make sure the kids got fed.
When the pandemic started, we knew that families who was already in need, they're gonna need even more support. And then we're going to get a bubble of families who haven't struggled before that's going to start struggling. So how can we maintain what we already started and create a welcoming environment so people don't feel embarrassed or ashamed to come and pick up a meal.
When this first started, we weren't doing hot food because it's like, how do you serve hot food? Everybody, like I feel like all the school districts around the nation was, you know, doing prepackaged stuff, doing just boxing things up for people to take for the week. And that's kind of like what we started as well, just like sandwiches and cold meals and stuff.
So right now we have 40 meal sites. We have direct home delivery.
These two schools are one of the largest food distribution sites in Washington State.
So Amazon is delivering to over 3,000 families daily.
They make the boxes really fun. There's good meals in there, there's fun things. They got cereal, they got milk, they got fresh fruit, vegetables. I think we started out with about 375. Now we're up to 615 to 637.
We average around 30,000 meals a day. We're also delivering to housing units and shelters directly from our central kitchen. Fair Start donated meals, extra supper meals. City of Seattle have set up meal sites at different housing units so we can distribute meals to them. No matter where you live, there should be a meal in close proximity for you to be able to pick up.
I've seen many times like families coming in, parents coming in, like in tears, like just very thankful that we're able to provide food for their family because they either lost their jobs, they're desperate, they don't know what to do. At least they can come to one of these 40 sites and make sure that their children are fed.
Thank you, have a great day.
We've done a really good job during the school year on making sure we represent different cultures through our food. And, you know, we took a step back for a couple weeks and then came up with a game plan on how we can continue to do that.
Like, let's get back to like our goals and what we wanted to do, and we still can do it even through this situation that we're in, and we've proven that we were able to do that, you know, serving. Yeah, we have like sandwiches and salads as options, but we're also still cooking from scratch, making culturally relevant food. I try every month. We've done like a special, we did gumbo last month. We're about to do, one of our supervisors is of Eritrean background, and there's a lot of like Ethiopian Eritrean families in our community. So I'm working with her and members of the community to make their typical food in Jeddah with like a stew, like a lentil stew that they do.
So I think that they're gonna make good food that the kids can come in and grab, and they're actually gonna be eating it instead of just taking the fries out and throwing the rest in the garbage.
We're just gonna continue to grow and continue to be creative.
I can't wait to get back in service so they can really show us what they're gonna do. That's what's gonna be good.
Looking ahead, the Seattle School District will continue the program through the summer so all families in need are fed. We'll be right back. Well, that wraps up this week's episode of CityStream from the rapidly changing waterfront. If you want to keep up with everything that's going on down here, just visit waterfrontseattle.org. I'm Tatevik Aprikyan. Thank you for watching.